Hello everyone. So this meeting, just so you know, this meeting is not a Zoom meeting. You did not miss a meeting. Um, so it's been a while since our first lesson. There's been a lot of new restrictions and it's been quite complicated. That's why this has been kind of all over the place, but I'm hoping we'll get into a regular schedule starting this Monday. Speaking of this Monday, we have a guest speaker coming from Oak Ridge Greenhouse. And so that's exciting. And that'll be at 1:30 on Monday. Okay, so we haven't had a lesson in 2 weeks. It's been crazy, and yeah, so I'm hoping everyone watching this has watched the first lesson. If you haven't, it's on the YouTube channel, the SFRC YouTube channel. And today will be a lesson that is important to watch for when we're planting our gardens, which I will talk about a bit later, how that's gonna work. Okay, so let us go. Let's share a screen. Okay, so what we're gonna do first is we're gonna watch a little video. You can watch this with your kids. It's all about how does a seed become a plant. And there's gonna be some questions after the video. All the questions are gonna be in the description with the answers, but I want you to answer all the questions just from watching the video, and then you can check your answers in the description. All right, let us go to the PowerPoint. And if you haven't guessed already, today's lesson is on seeds. All right. Oh yeah, here are the video questions. Okay. Intro to seeding. Seed starting versus direct sowing. So we are direct sowing in our gardens. Just so you know, we are not seed starting because we don't have the time for that. What is seed starting? Okay, seed starting is planting seeds indoors in small trays before they can be safely planted in the ground, with the intention of transplanting them into the garden as seedlings when they are safe to plant. This way, it takes less of the growing season for them to grow, so they'll be ready sooner. Because some plants don't have enough time to grow in our short growing season, they can only be grown using seed starting. And what is direct sowing? Direct sowing is planting the seeds directly into the ground when it is safe to plant them. So for us in our garden boxes, we are doing direct sowing because seed starting, we would have to start much earlier and we need some space to do that, which we don't have. So here are some examples of seed starting. You can buy these trays. As you can see, there are trays specifically designed for seed starting. You put one seed in each little square there, and there's usually a tray. As you can see on the bottom right here, there's a tray that you put the water in, and the seed tray goes into that water. Yeah, so also it is very important that these seedlings get the proper amount of light as they are very sensitive. Because they're indoors, they might not get the right amount of sunlight. So for example, my grandma was making some tomato plant seedlings for us actually. And she had put them by a window, which is great for the seeds, but they had grown very thin and they had kind of fallen over. So because they weren't in direct sunlight, the plants were growing and reaching for the sunlight, and so their stem was very thin and they were very weak and they would fall over. So to avoid that, many people will use a special kind of light for the seedlings, which can be expensive. Seed starting can be quite expensive, but you can also use things like egg carton trays, like up in the right top corner. So there's workarounds to seed starting, but yeah, there's pros and cons to seed starting and direct sowing, which is something that we can talk about. Okay, intro to seeding. What should I seed start and what should I direct sow? Seed start easy plants to seed start include pepper, tomatoes, and basil. Seed start plants that need a lot of time to grow so that they have enough time to produce during the growing season. So some plants, if you were to just plant them or direct sow them into the ground with everything else in June or whenever you would plant your garden, they wouldn't have enough time to mature all through our summer. So they need to be started early enough so that by the time they are ready to go into the actual garden, they have enough time to mature and produce as much as possible during the summer. Seed start celery, broccoli, eggplant, leeks, garlic, and onion. Direct sow lettuce and other leaf veggies mature quickly and don't need to be seed started. So because these leafy greens, they mature so quickly, it's not really necessary to seed start them because they'll produce in the time given. Yeah, so plants that don't like to be transplanted include beans, peas, carrots, radish, spinach, turnips, and potatoes. So because they don't like to be transplanted, which means they're growing in one place and you take them out with their roots and transplant them into another place, because they don't like that, it would be kind of detrimental for them to be seed started and then put into a new environment. They might not do as well. And some of these plants, like beets, they like cool soil anyways, and some like shade anyways. And so it would be a lot of extra work to seed start them when they can do fine in the garden by themselves. One thing you don't want to transplant is root vegetables like carrots and radish and turnips, because their root is the part that you eat, and that's the most important part. You want to keep that growing healthy. And if you're moving it to different gardens, it's going to not do so well. So things like melon, squash, zucchini, those that have like fruit like on them, like a tomato, they can be planted as seeds or bought, and they ripen late in the season. So what you can do if you don't want to seed start, you can buy seedlings, also known as starts, or mature plants from greenhouses and nurseries to skip the seed starting process. This is a bit more expensive, and there's less variety. So Where are we now? We are on slide 6. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm getting all confused. Oh, okay, sorry. Here we go. What are seedlings? Seedlings are the young plants that sprout from the seed. Seedlings can be transplanted from seed starting to garden. If a seedling does not get enough direct sunlight, it can grow too thin and fall over as it tries to find sunlight, like I was talking about before with the tomato plants. Once a seedling is almost ready to be transplanted, it must be hardened off, which means to slowly get it acclimated to the outside. You can do this by taking the seed starting tray outdoors for a few hours each day away from other plants. So we want to slowly introduce them into the outside environment instead of just immediately planting them, because that can shock them and they can really suffer from that. And we want to, when we're hardening them off and bringing them outside, we want to keep them away from other plants so that we don't spread diseases between the plants and keep them healthy. Yeah, and so once you've hardened them off, once you've hardened them off, oh, I forget how long it was now, but I think it's like a week, 2 weeks, then you can plant them outside. And another thing to note is thin out seedlings to 1 plant per tray square by snipping the stem off at soil level. So we want to snip the stem off instead of pulling them out, because that can disrupt the other seedlings, disrupt their roots. They're very sensitive and they need a lot of attention when you're seed starting. They need a lot of attention and take a lot of time and energy. Okay. Now, I was gonna do this with everyone, but since I am just doing a recording, I'm going to do this by myself, and we were going to do a little pros and cons of seed starting and pros and cons of direct sowing. So let me just draw a nice line here. Make my little chart. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Pros and cons. Now we were going to do a little brainstorm. Oops. Oh well, we were going to do a little brainstorm together, but since we're not in a meeting and I'm recording this, I will just walk you through some pros and cons of seed starting. So, some pros. Buying seeds. Okay, buying seeds is cheaper than buying plants. When you're growing your seeds, another pro would be that you're taking pride in this. Someone hasn't done this for you, like the greenhouse. You are growing these things yourself. They're kind of like your children, and these seedlings are a lot of work, and they're hard to grow. And so you should be proud if you do this. Proud of your work. Okay. Another pro would be that there is more variety when buying seeds. So this is because greenhouses are only going to grow a certain amount of seed starts for people to buy. So there's going to be a lot less variety among those plants because they take time, energy, and space to grow those plants. So seeds, they don't take up a lot of room. So at the greenhouse or wherever you're going to buy your seeds, there's going to be a lot more variety. And it is more cost effective. So seeds are just a whole lot cheaper than buying plants. Yep, end of sentence. So let's talk about some cons. Cons are buying the seed starting tray and other equipment, I'll say. So buying a seed starting tray and other equipment, it can be really expensive, especially if you need the proper lighting. And a lot of people have like shelving that they use to keep their seeds in. And now some people definitely can build their own, which would be good too, but most people would probably buy all the things that they need. It can be very expensive. Okay. It is difficult to learn. This is a big thing. Seed starting is not for beginner gardeners, I would say. It's very finicky. There's a lot of little details you need to get right and give these seedlings a lot of attention. Whereas if you just get the plants ready grown and you just put them in your garden, you're good to go. They're already like started, and so they're gonna have an easier time just growing in your garden. Yes, and they need space. They need space, time, attention, and materials. So it is very time consuming to take care of seedlings. And they take up space and materials, yes, like we've already talked about. Yeah, so that is the pros and cons of seed starting. If you can see that, there we go. There's my little chart. And let's just save that. And all right, now let's change this. Oh, can I? Here, I'll just do that. Oh, how do I? Okay. I'm learning this as we're going. Okay, so now we want to do the pros and cons of direct sowing, which is putting the seeds just directly into the ground. Okay, is that gonna? Nope. Oh gosh, how do I? Okay, here, let's just do this. Direct sowing. Again, this is my first time running this program, my first time teaching a program, so I'm learning as much as you are, and it's less of a teacher-student relationship and more of a cooperation relationship. Okay, pros and cons. Okay, so some pros. The seedlings are ready to grow in your garden. No, nothing needed beforehand, so just they're ready to plant. Ooh, what's happening? Struggling to type here. Okay. Because they are ready, because the greenhouse does the work for you. How nice of them. And it's easy for beginners. Easy for beginners, and yeah, just there. It's easy to the starts, which are the baby plants, will do very well in your garden. And yeah. And you don't have to worry about the timing of planting. So if you're seed starting, you got to already think all the way in February, like January, February. You got to plan out, like, what are my seeds? Okay, I got to do the math. How many weeks until I'm going to plant it in the garden? So I want it to mature after I plant it in the garden. So how many weeks do I need to seed start? And then you got to, on that day in March or whatever, you get, okay, I'm going to start seed starting. So there's a lot of planning involved. So direct sowing, you don't have to worry about that. The plants will be the right age, so they won't be too late to fruit. So the greenhouse is going to make sure that those plants are ready to be put in the garden, and when you buy plants, they have like directions on how to put them in the ground. Super easy and straightforward. And adult plants are easier to take care of than baby plants. Like I said, the seedlings can be finicky, and yeah, they're just ready for you. And they're more hardy. So there's a less chance of them dying. Although in the nursery, they are very, very protected, and there's a certain temperature, and so they are going to be a bit used to a very, controlled environment. And so you still have to be careful when putting them into your garden. Okay, cons. This is the most expensive way to start your garden. Plants are expensive. The greenhouse has put a lot of energy into making these plants. Yes, and variety is limited. Like I said before, more variety with seeds, less variety with plants. There's more chance. So when you're direct sowing seeds, there's more chance of diseases and weeds. So this is comparing the seedlings in the tray inside compared to the seedlings in the garden, not the bought plants from the greenhouse. I'm talking about the seeds directly into the soil. So because they're outside, there's more dangers outside than inside, obviously, like weather. Subject to weather. You know, there might be a sudden frost. And they need thinning. So in a seed starting tray, it's like you have it perfectly spaced out, 1 seed per square. So you might need to thin out your seedlings. So there you might have some seed waste, which is not too big of a deal since seeds are very cheap. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint. Okay. So this is what you're going to want to know when you are starting your garden. This is the how-to of your garden. So first, the most important thing is to prepare your soil. Use a rake or hand fork to loosen soil, break apart large clumps, and remove debris like sticks and rocks. So actually, a few weeks ago, I was in our gardens and I was weeding them and taking out rocks and sticks, and I was putting in soil. So the gardens are looking really great. So they won't need a lot of this because the soil's already quite loose and I've broken apart a lot of clumps, but they will need some removing of rocks and anything and just make the soil level. Add fertilizer and compost if you have. We will be adding fertilizer, which we will do with you guys. And compost, we're not going to do that, but it's a very good idea. You can buy bags of fertilizer and compost at your local greenhouse. So you want to mix that into the soil and create a level surface. Okay, planting the seeds. The rule of thumb is to plant at the depth of 2 to 3 times the diameter of the seed, which is diameter. Yeah, that's just like how tall or how long the seed is. So 2 to 3 times down into the soil. It will usually say on the seed packet planting depth. Some seeds require sunlight to germinate. Place them on top of the soil and press firmly against soil using a board or trowel to ensure that moisture cradles the seeds. So I'm actually not sure what plants require this, but some seeds, they need to actually be exposed to the sunlight. And so we don't want to just place them on top of the soil. We want to make sure that the soil is kind of cradling it, and so they're getting that moisture. Yes. Oh, I want to get rid of this. Whoops. My mistake. Okay. Okay, continuing on with planting seeds. When sowing very small seeds, mix with sand to disperse them more evenly. Just a little tip that can make your life a bit easier instead of having to thin out a bunch of seedlings. When sowing large seeds, use a pencil or stake to make individual planting holes. Really, you can just use your finger to poke a hole, and that works just as well. But yeah, depending on how many seeds go in one garden square, again, we're doing garden squares. Check your handy dandy spacing chart that I gave you last week. Space the planting holes equally distanced apart as well as the sides of the square. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch lesson 1 where I explained all of that, the squares and how to space all your seeds and plants. And if you don't have those handy dandy spacing chart and companion planting chart, let me know and I will get that to you. So I'm hoping by now you also have the handout that had your little example garden, or the one where you picked all your vegetables, and using your spacing chart and companion planting chart, you filled in the squares of your garden. So if you need help with that, let me know. We're going to talk on Monday, and I will answer any questions you have, and we'll work that all out don't worry, we're going to work it all out before starting planting. Yes, and after planting. After sowing seeds, water with a mist or shower so seeds do not get dislodged by heavy water. Some may need watering up to twice a day. So seeds obviously need a lot of attention, and so obviously you're not going to be at the center twice. You're not going to have to come to the center where the garden is twice a day. We can water those seeds for you. This is just when they're seeds. When they're older, they don't need this much water. Place a stake or mark so you know what and where you planted your seeds. So, oh, I don't have it with me. Well, let me just explain what I am talking about. So, this is actually a little craft you can do with your kids. You can take some paper and some markers, and I would just write what plant it is, and maybe draw a little picture, make it look nice, make it look cute, and then you can bring it to the center. We can laminate it, and then attach a little popsicle stick, and by putting that in our squares, we'll know what we're planting, because once we plant the seeds, we can't see them. We're not going to know. We might forget what we planted, so we really want to make sure we keep track of that. And you can also keep track using your little chart that you filled in. Okay. This is important. Learn what seedlings each plant will look like so you don't mistake them for weeds. This is important because you don't want to all of a sudden pick out your seedlings and then thinking they were weeds. So just a tip, if you don't know, if you can't tell at that time if it's a seedling or a weed, just wait. Just be safe and wait and see until you can really tell. Thin seedlings so they are evenly spaced. Snip the stem at soil level. Keep an eye out for pests like slugs, snails, and cutworms. So, slugs, snails, stuff like that you can see on the plant. It's really easy to get rid of them. You don't need to use pesticides and stuff. It's really not necessary, and it's kind of a waste, and also can be dangerous for animals and people around you. It can be wasteful because if we just spray a bunch of pesticides on our garden, a lot of the time it's actually not going to do what you want it to do, because the pesticides are meant for when at a certain maturity of the bugs, how old the bug is, and it's really specific, and so just spraying it willy-nilly is very wasteful, and it's bad for the environment also. So, and there's lots of little tips and tricks and other alternatives that are much more helpful. So, for example, cutworms. A little trick that my grandma actually taught me for cutworms is, let me just find it here. So you won't actually usually see cutworms, but you'll see that your stems of your plants are snipped. So what you're going to do is you're going to place a small piece of stiff paper. You're going to wrap it around the stem, so that it's a few inches around the stem, and you're just going to stick it into the soil, and so that way the cutworms can't snip your stems. So really fun hack, a really easy hack that can help protect your plants from cutworms. All right. So, as you already heard in the video, you can eat seeds. There are lots of seeds that are healthy and taste good. Seeds are great sources of fiber and protein. They also contain healthy fats and many important vitamins, minerals, and and antioxidants. So seeds are like a superfood. Seeds and nuts, they're kind of in the same family. They can really give you a lot, and a very small portion can give you a lot of the nutrition that you need, really packed into a small little thing. That's because the like we learned in the video, all the plant food in there, it is just chocked full of plant food to help the little plant grow, which can also be beneficial to us if we eat them. So when consumed as a part of a healthy diet, seeds can help reduce blood sugar, cholesterol, and blood pressure. So there are so many pluses to eating seeds. They are, they just have a lot of nutritional value and not a lot of downsides. So because they are so nutrient dense, it is recommended to eat 2 tablespoons of seeds every day. That's a really small amount, and I'd say it's pretty easy. The only thing is seeds can be, depending on what kind you're getting, can be a bit expensive at the grocery store. Depends on what kind. Good seeds to eat include flax seeds, chia seeds, sunflower seeds, hemp seeds, and sesame seeds. It is not recommended to eat fruit seeds. Some can be poisonous. So you might have heard that apple seeds are poisonous. Well, technically they are, but you would have to eat quite a lot of them to be poisoned by them. And yeah, so not super dangerous if you just accidentally eat one. So yeah, but one thing that can be dangerous that I learned while researching for this lesson, let me find it here. Kidney beans are dangerous to eat raw as they contain a chemical that causes red blood cells to clump together. So eating as little as 4 to 5 beans can cause vomiting and diarrhea. The toxin that causes this is destroyed after boiling them. So kidney beans should be kept away. Raw kidney beans should be kept away from your children probably. And yeah, probably not fun to eat. Even just a few of them, 4 or 5 can have that kind of effect. And so, but don't worry, once you boil them, they're totally safe to eat. Okay. Some food ideas for seeds. Flax or chia seeds are great in smoothies, and a small amount goes a long way. Like we said before, they are super nutrient rich. Homemade energy bites and bars are an easy on-the-go food, good with any fruits, dried fruit, and peanut butter. So I will include a recipe for that actually in the description. Sesame, sunflower, and pumpkin seeds are good salad toppers, even better toasted. Just sprinkle a few on top and it's really good. Chia seed pudding is another option for more of a dessert or breakfast. I haven't actually tried this, but yeah, very healthy, and it's kind of a trend to do that kind of pudding. Yeah. Seeds and nuts can also be ground down and put into your cooking. It can be ground down and put into your flour. You might have even seen like almond flour at the grocery store. Some other ideas are trail mix, muffins, granola bars, pies, or tarts. So there's a lot you can do with seeds, and they are easy to use, put into everything. So I think that's where I'm gonna stop it for today because I've run out of time. But next time we will pick up and we're gonna talk about watering. And just a reminder, this Monday, we have a guest speaker coming, and yeah, I will see you then. I'll send a reminder, and the meeting time has changed from 2 to 1:30, so the meeting will be at 1:30. All right, everyone, have a good weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.